Is it recording? So remember, if you have to like stop or if you need to say or whatever, like you can pause. Everything will be edited, okay?
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. No, I see it recording at the top.
Sounds good. So thank you again, everybody, for joining a new episode. I'm here with this entrepreneur who I literally met like 2 weeks ago, Zach Marion. He is the owner of Shoreline Waste Solutions. In a nutshell, Zach, your company rolls trash bins up and down the curb for homeowners, short-term rentals, etc., right?
Yeah, exactly. We perform what we call in this industry a can to curb trash service. So we come the day before, take the cans, trash, and recycling to the curb, and then once the real trash collection people pick it up, we come later that afternoon and return them. And like you said, we're solving the problem for mostly rental property owners. So especially my demographic is down the Jersey Shore. These people are renting their homes during the summer, making a good amount of money on weekly rentals, and no longer want both the hassle of potentially having to go down and remove the trash or even having to make their tenants go and take the trash out back and forth. So we solve that issue.
Man, I'm excited to dive into the everything and part of the business. But first question, Zach, is what was the aha moment that made you say, yeah, I got to start this business?
Yeah, so I think it comes into entrepreneurship altogether, maybe not even this business directly because it wasn't the first thing I did. So I went to the University of Delaware. I actually spent 3 years there before I did eventually drop out and went full time for the business. But after my first year, and I had rushed to fraternity my first semester, dedicated a lot of time into that. And in my second semester as a freshman, I was seeing a lot of the senior class kind of, worried and not excited about their future. They were kind of more on the side of, oh, I never want this to end. I always hated the expression college is the best 4 years of my life. Like, I've always been like, screw that. I want the rest of my life to be the best of my life. So I think like something flipped the switch in me when I got a lot of free time after I joined into my fraternity. And I was like, I've always felt like I wanted to do something a little bit different than the crowd. And so I've always also been a very energetic person. So I hopped into this because after a couple of failed projects, my dad was like, hey, I saw he worked in Delaware. He was like, I saw someone doing this in Dewey Beach and was like, you should definitely try it. And the first demographic we went after was actually weekend residents, but it ended up being the rentals. So once I stepped into the market and saw that we could kind of fill this demand, from there it was like, man, this is the business I want to be in.
That's insane, man. And if you think about it from an outside perspective, right? Like, dude, I roll my trash bins in and out without even thinking of, hey, I could start a business or I hope someone could do this for me. But before you started Shoreline Waste, what did you imagine entrepreneurship look like and how did reality compare?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a young gun. So when I was 19, 18 is when I started getting into this stuff. And like I previously mentioned, the first thing I ever did was what most people start with in the quote unquote internet money space. Like that's kind of what I pictured of entrepreneurship was like drop shipping and reselling sneakers and doing all of those things. So that was my view. My view was that since social media is so big, you got to be a content creator. You have to make an e-commerce website and do, drop shipping. Now it's TikTok shop is what all the people are doing. But with all that said, like once the first business I started was a sneaker cleaning business. And so I went door to door around college campuses and I would literally have videos of me sliding like, door, little hangers under people's doors in their apartments. And it was because it was like, well, all these kids, they go to frat parties, they got, dirty shoes. I'm like, well, if I charge people 15, $20 to clean shoes, let's see. So I actually came back from winter break. I convinced my roommate to do it with me. We started a social media page. It's called UD Clean Kicks. It's still up. And after about a month, we probably made like $3,000, I would say, between the two of us. I was probably running it more, and that's how I got accustomed to like dealing with clients and coordinating, like via scheduling for to go pick up shoes and go clean them and return them. So I gained a lot of my skills from doing something like that. And that was the first eye opening to be like, wow, like there's it really opened my eyes to service business. There's a need for customers. You fulfill that need and they'll pay you. And that's really all service businesses all together is, people having a need, you doing good work and they tell their friends. And then before you know it, the talk around campus was use UD Clean Kicks. So that's what spiraled me. But then I realized, this wasn't a scalable business. And that's when my dad talked about the trash thing, and I tried to fill that need as well.
Sweet. And that's a great segment there where I want to ask, like, was there a person or a moment in your life that inspired your work ethic or business approach?
Yeah, so I'm like extremely fortunate. Both of my parents were accountants. So they went to school for accounting. And so really right now, like even now, my mom works full time for the business, and it does all my personal accounting plus the business accounting, which it gets crazy, especially now that we've opened up another business. But with that said, my dad's the smartest person I know. And he's been now into banking and has helped me with so many pivotal decisions where it's like, that is something where I think a lot of people are lacking financial literacy, and I had such a good mentor to help on that front.
Yeah.
But I would say for public figures, I really looked up to Mark Cuban. I read his books. Dana White. I really liked the way he did business and the way that he's kind of just a no bullshitter,
Mhm.
and I like the way that rolls. And could be controversial, but I will not lie. My awakening kind of happened when the whole like Andrew Tate stuff was coming out. And that's when all the motivational clips, it was really mostly the clips themselves. And they were like, oh, like screaming at the Matrix, like all this stuff. And I'm like, what is the Matrix? Like, what do you mean by that? And it did eye open me to the idea that like, all these people that are the most successful people in the world, you watch the School of Hard Knocks guy, almost all of them, unless they're in banking, they've started their own business, or maybe they're in private equity or something like that. And so, now I think the content is probably filtered out better where it's like you see these motivational people. But during that stir, I was online for that stir when clipping and all of this stuff came about. And, I think a lot of people take motivational clips and they sit on it and they scroll to the next. And I was just lucky enough to see that and actually act upon it.
Love it, man. You took action. I think that's the biggest takeaway from just this part of the podcast is that, like you mentioned, a lot of people sit and they wait and maybe they're kind of just expecting something to happen, but you took action, and we'll get into that shortly. But when you
Sure.
first launched, what was your initial vision for Shoreline? And then how has that vision evolved over time?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's kind of funny. I came into the market addressing the market that I'm not even having 95% of my customers now. We came in basically coming for the people that only spend their weekends down the shore. So they take their summer vacations, they're there on the weekends, they work on the weekdays. And so, like, they have to take their trash that they've accumulated from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and they either have to get a neighbor to go take it out during the week if their trash stays during the week, or they got to put it in their car and drive it to the public dump, or just take it home with them. So that was the first addressed market. And I probably got like 5 to 10, and
Okay.
then came from just cold like messaging people. And the first big person I messaged was someone. His name's Ricky. He actually was a UD alum, so that helped. And he was the manager of what's called Experience Vacation Rentals down the Jersey Shore. They're an all-in-one rental property management company. Shout out them too; they do a great work. And the guy Ricky was like, "Hey, like I have 25 properties. We manage them full out, and right now I have maintenance team doing it." And they actually decided to go with maintenance. They were like, "Sorry, like honestly, for the pricing, it didn't seem worth it." And then they come back 2 weeks later and they're like, dude, my maintenance guy is doing more trash than anything. So think about it. They're paying a full time maintenance guy 60 grand a year, and he's all busy with the trash because there's so much scheduling, so many houses. And so they realize, wow, like we can just give it off to this kid and he's going to take care of it. He's going to make sure that, we never deal with a trash violation, a missed trash can. And so that's ultimately what these management companies want. They want a service that is going to wipe their hands clean of a certain situation because they want to scale. Everyone wants to scale their business. So the more allocation they can put towards good services and good vendors, they're going to end up doing so it's one less thing on their plate.
Yep, exactly that. You mentioned that everybody wants to scale, and kind of just throwing this out of left field here. Like in the beginning, was it you rolling the bins in and out? Like, what was the learning curve there?
So until my third year, I was doing cans 7 days a week. And when I say 7 days a week, I mean we started in May, and I had to, well, really as soon as I got out of school, and all the way till September. And every single day I was pulling cans. And in the beginning, it was only me, and I was doing 7 days a week. And in the beginning, when we had 20 properties, I was doing an hour of work, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm making more money than I was being a beach lifeguard in an hour of work. And then as the business kept growing, I'm like, holy, now we're at 6 hours a day, which is
Yeah.
still less than a normal work week. And I'm doing 100
For you, just for you, correct?
solo me, yeah. And so 6 hours a day, I was doing it. And that whole summer, I mean, I pocketed every single dime because I didn't hire anyone. And then
Yeah.
next year, I had employees. And then this last year, so our third season, we had four amazing employees. I did not work a day in the field.
Nice.
And a lot of that is for the software that we created, but also because we had really good employees.
Nice. And so I want to backtrack here. So when someone signs up for your service, they're most likely a short-term rental
Yeah.
company, and they book through your software, your managing app, whatever it is. They sign up and then they pay, and then you go and do what, and then you come back and do what?
Yeah, so they to sign up, all they have to do is go on the website, right? And then they fill out like 4 to 5 page little survey of like what we need. We need their address, we need where the cans are, we need the trash stays. That's really all we need. Once they've signed up, yeah, once they want to get started, they pay. It's completely month to month. It's $85 a month. And that covers both trash and recycling days. So typically people down the shore, they might have 2 collection days. It might be Tuesday, Friday, right? What
Hmm.
you're getting for that is Monday, we come the day before trash day, we pull the cans out for you. And then once they get collected the next day on Tuesday on their collection day, we bring them back. And then we do the same thing for Thursday, Friday. So we're doing 4 total trips a week, 16 trips a month. So, and sometimes it's more if you're
The
on a
same
long,
property.
same property. Yeah, they're getting 16 trips because again, they have 2 collection days and you got to take them out and you got to return them. So these people, but for us, it's all about what's it called? Density. It's all
Yep.
about density because if we get the neighbors of the neighbor,
Just
that took 30 seconds.
yep.
That was it. So that's the big thing is you want to get density in one area. And so I encourage people that they can start this anywhere because a lot of people, they can do it to the elderly, they can do it to residential. But if you're filling the rental luxury market, there's nothing better than that, especially in a shore town because of the density aspect.
Love it, man. And like you mentioned, just walking down to the neighbors, rolling it down, rolling it back in, and you can knock out how many? What's the most houses you've knocked out in an hour by yourself?
Um, I would say jumbled into Wildwood, which is our definitely most dense and populated place. I would say I could probably do 70 stops in an hour.
That's insane.
So that's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy because some of the days it is like, and that's me rushing for sure.
Yeah.
Like I would allocate a single kid to the town of Wildwood, and on a normal day, he's probably going to do 90 stops just in one town. And that's going to take him maybe an hour and a half or two, depending on traffic, depending on where you're at. But with that said, it's like, um, all the islands are pretty close together. So an average employee is going to work between 20 and 25 hours a week, and that's going to cover you a ton. And we're going to do 300 total stops a day about.
Love it, man. And where you started at zero, obviously, because you started this from the ground up. Where are you now? How many clients do you have now?
So we now have about 500 properties. And with that, most of them are going to do June, July, and August during the summer months. And then you get about 50 to 60% doing May and September. So with that said, we're an 8 month service. Sorry, 7 months. We offer April through November, but bulk of the money, bulk of what we do is going to be between May through September. With that said, we just expanded this year and haven't serviced them yet to 4 new shore towns, Sea Isle through Atlantic City, if anyone's familiar. And then this is I don't know if this is going to get released before this, but on Thursday, we are launching into Ocean County, which is Point Pleasant through Seaside Heights, which if you're any bit familiar with the area, anyone that's watching, that's like 13 more shore towns. So we started with 6 and this summer we'll be servicing 24.
Got it. And like you mentioned, it's a seasonal business for you. So what do you do in the off season?
Yeah, so I mean, for one, it's just free time to market. And that is probably my greatest skill is marketing and sales, especially that I know the business like the back of my hand. It's like just any time to have more time to call new realtors, call new connections. There's constantly new homeowners So the marketing side is huge in the off season, although it's usually pretty slow because the last thing people are thinking about for summer and their rental is their trash. But it's so good to get in their ears so that they remember and then spark it back up in April and May when they are thinking about the trash and they are thinking about tenants and everything like that. But with that said, of recent, we have taken the software that we developed, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later, and we have now been basically created that as a separate company and want to scale that to other can to curb companies across the US and also encourage other people to start this business because we've created the infrastructure that basically will automate 75% of it.
And what's the how do you guys grow? I mean, you mentioned sales and marketing, but are you able to dive into that? Do you use Facebook groups? Is it TikTok, Instagram, Facebook ads? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So from the beginning, it was completely cold outreach. So to every property management company we could find, to every real estate office, because these real estate offices, they get calls, they get complaints, they want a vendor to send this to. So originally it was all about awareness and getting them to know that a service like this exists so that they could help us out. And then it became Facebook groups, as you mentioned. And Facebook groups are, for anyone that doesn't know, are free community groups that you can join. And by joining them, you can literally search up your exact serviceable area. And a ton of times, especially if you're in a shore town or Airbnb area like San Francisco, like yourself, you'll find rentals. You'll find, for me, Wildwood Rentals, Avalon Rentals, Avalon Second Homeowners, the perfect keywords, exactly the demographic that we're looking for. And you can join them. And sometimes they have tens of thousands of members. And so that alone has probably gotten us 300 properties over the last 3 years. So if you think about that, it's making up 60 to 65% of our properties. Then I would say cold outreach. Then I would say word of mouth. But the 60% was completely free. Like
Yeah,
we are not spending a
Facebook
dime.
groups.
Yeah, and it's pretty unbelievable. And there's not a lot of businesses that can grow this fast by really just awareness. Like awareness is everything. The more eyes. I've never really been face to face with a rental property owner who's had this issue that's decided to quit up on the service. Because if anyone at home is thinking, oh, $85 a month, that could be a lot. Well, they're getting paid thousands, sometimes $5,000 a week. So over a month, they could make between $5,000 and $20,000 on their rental.
85.
$85 for that security blanket. They're paying their cleaners $200 to $300 a week
Yeah.
on turnovers. So $85 to never worry about the trash again. It's a total shoe-in. And how we grow now, now we're expanding to new shore towns. And before I never could do that because I was still in school and I didn't have the software and the infrastructure to do so. Now, if I wanted to, I could start this in Austin, Texas. I could go get a couple. If I got 25 properties and I go get a high school kid, I have I have all the validation and the software on my back end. They get the navigational app. They go do the routes. I make sure it happens. And just like that, you're growing. So for us, we're going to be in 18 basically new shore towns that are completely untouched. And, we're hoping by the end of the year, we have 1,000 properties. And by next year, we have 2,000 properties. And we kind of just scale up the coast.
Are you without giving exact numbers, or you can give baseline or of a range? What are you guys doing right now in annual revenue on these 500 properties?
Yeah. And so I want to say from the beginning, going back to my first summer, this is why it's the most incredible business in the world, is because the margins are absolutely ridiculous and the barrier to entry is zero. You need to know nothing about really your area, or even if there is competition in your area, you need zero certifications, zero knowledge, and zero, most importantly, $0. You don't need equipment. You don't need anything. You need some sort of transportation. Even if you wanted to, you could go run it, walk it, bike it, whatever it is. And with that said, that's the best part about this. My first summer when I was doing it myself, especially when we weren't even a licensed business, I didn't even have those expenses. We did 120 properties by the end of it.
Okay.
I made $20,000 and my expenses was zero. I literally pocketed every single dime. And it's because I was willing to grind and I did grow that quickly. But you can do the math in your area. You go start this up and in 3 months you have 50 properties and you're charging them $75. If you're doing it yourself, you're making 15K. You're making, or maybe it's more like 10K at that level. But the more and more you scale and the more months you have, these customers love it. So I just wanted to put that out there because, you know, it's a little bit different now. We have employees, but the best part about this business is employees are really your only expense if you're doing organic marketing for the most part. So, you know,
Right.
I would say it's honestly public knowledge, so I'm okay with saying it. We'll, this year at least, you know, we will probably do between 500 and 600 properties over 5 months. We'll probably be close to 200,000 in revenue.
Nice.
And I would say, you know, conservatively, we're netting 65% on that.
Right.
So, and who knows though, with the growth and, you know, we might be on the verge of some acquisitions. It
Right.
could, you know, double up pretty quickly. And because we're only in some shore towns, you know, I've always been like, let's get the density. Let's not expand too far. We've
Right.
already expanded a lot. And so I plan to sit on this for a little bit and, you know, grow.
Dude, love it, man. And it's a very labor intensive business, but again, what you're hiring for, you're not looking for anything special. If you can roll a can up and down a driveway, then you can probably qualify as a technician for this job. And a follow-up question to that is, do you have W-2 workers, employees, or are these 1099 contractors?
So they are subs. Yeah, so they are subs,
Oh,
which is good for us. And you know, yeah, the way that you can do that is basically doing it on a per route basis. So we pay them on a per route basis, whatever we estimate the amount of hours, and yeah, we sub them out.
got it. Sub amount. Okay, you froze there, but I think it should be good. You said that you pay them on a per route basis. So what does that come out to? I guess hourly, is that like $20 an hour or something like that?
Yeah, so we advertise at $22 an hour a week and 25 hours on a weekend. And so for these kids, it's absolutely great. You know, they're 18 to 21. I also like very much encourage them to work in higher operations or add some actual like marketing help or sales help or anything in the like this is such a startup business and there's so much that you learn by doing it in the field yourself that whether it's helping out the app to, you know, add a new feature that helps. By the end of the summer I had asked them, you know, give me one good thing or give me three good things to add to the app, and we implemented it this offseason because at the end of the day they are the ones that are running the business, they are the doing the operations. And so that's like, you know, the most valuable asset. But for them, it's great. You know, they can start the trash some bit in the afternoon and then, you know, usually flexible between 12 and 3 p.m. And they're almost like Uber drivers. They're almost like DoorDash drivers, right? I give you a window of time. You got to go do it. And you know exactly how much you're going to make based on that. And so we're kind of, you know, we're avoiding the gig economy model like some, you know, operators choose to do. They are our actual employees. And so we make sure that, you know, because the clients love them. They talk to the kids. They're 18 to 21-year-old kids, like, you know, they're hustlers. So we think that that's very important to, you know, technically they're not employees, but to treat them as such.
Right. So, sorry to cut out, but these are W-2 workers or 1099?
They're 1099.
1099, but they're officially part of your team. They don't like rotate in and out, and you're not taking new ones in. These are like
No,
your.
they are, you know, yeah, kind of,
Got
yes.
it. Got it. Okay. And I want to be conscious of time here, so I'm going to jump ahead. So, how do
Yeah.
you keep your team motivated? I know that you mentioned that these are young kids. Like, do you have like a training program that you put together? Do you have bonuses or anything like that? What does that look
Yeah,
like?
no, for sure. So obviously, like we said, it's not skilled labor, but we need kids that are going to be reliable because this is the most like I like how you did say it's labor intensive. It's labor intensive in the sense of there can't be a day off. There can't be a missed day. If we
Right.
were to miss a route, we're missing 100 houses, right?
Right.
And 100 houses didn't get their trash out and the new renters are coming in. So it's so important that, you know, each and every time they're making sure that the trash is going out and that they can report to work on time. What we do is we actually do a incentive for them. Our monthly bonus is based on performance. So we say and I implement it from the very beginning because I understood, you know, reading and listening to the best operators that no employee is ever going to care about your business nearly as much
Yeah.
as you do,
Sure.
right? And so we will put these incentives in performance, but even at that, it's on the operator to keep them motivated. And so our we've done this from the very beginning. If you get zero trash mistakes, so I don't get any reports of missed trash going out, you earn $300 a month.
Dang.
So yeah,
Good.
so yeah, exactly. And if you get a mistake, goes to 200, another mistake, 100, three mistakes, zero. And if you ever have a misexcused absence, $0. It wipes your bonus clean. And it goes to show you, just because my number one rule is communication. If you
Yep.
can't make a trash day, you got to let us know at
Yeah.
least
You can
24 hours.
fill
It
it.
really
You can
should be a
fill it.
couple days. Right. Because that will, I can always step in, or I can have an employee that wants to step in. We always have backup plans, but, it would put us in quite the pickle, and that hasn't happened yet. So by the end of it, an employee can earn their regular salary, and then they can earn $1,000 basically in a bonus if they were working.
Ooh,
I also take us out to a monthly team dinner or
that's
team
so
event.
fun.
And I
Yeah.
implemented that since the beginning because my first two employees were my two best friends. And I was like, well, how cool would it be to go take us out to, a nice dinner, and they deserve it more than anyone. Like, again, I can't put it into like words. Like, they are the ones running the business. They are the business. So,
Yeah.
treating them as that is the only way to do it in my eyes.
Jeez, man, that's awesome. And I want to jump ahead to the last question here because we're short on time. But talk to us about the software that you've created for can to curb businesses. I'm excited to chat about this. Go in, man.
Yeah.
I'll let you do your thing.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's really exciting. It feels like, Shoreline has been my baby. It's been everything, the operational company. And, starting another company, or like a co-joint company is so exciting. The last 2 months has been like Christmas morning every single day, especially because this software is going to enable can to curb operators, and current and new ones, like I've never seen it before. So, obviously this is a newer industry, but in my research, there are more 2025 and 2026 started can to curb companies than they ever have been in all the previous years. So it's very exciting that we're walking into this, and I'm fully serious in that I do believe in the next 5 years that this will be one of the fastest growing and most notable home services, just like the can cleaning business, and just like car detailing. When these kids see, oh, I can start this, I want that to be the can to curb. And I think that we have been, the innovators for not only how should you start it, but now we are the pioneers for the software. So basically, to take it back, about 2 years ago, I was looking for software for my own company after my second year, and there was nothing on the market, absolutely nothing. And so we decided, I have a tech background, but I was lucky enough at Delaware to get in touch with a lot of developers, and we built it completely, the first can to curb specific software just for my own business. I had no plans on taking it to market. While I was building it, I was like, wow, this could be huge. But I had no idea even how many can to curb companies there were. I was just focused for myself. And so we spent a full year, so much testing. I actually have a funny story about that. Like, we were first trying to build our own mapping system, and we were using Google's API. And so I went one day and I tested a route, right? I tested a route. My developers were like, yeah, let's go test the route. Test the route. 3 hours later, I get a bill from Google for $1,500 for the Google API. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I had no idea. I did not read up on it. I had no idea what that was going to trigger that, obviously. And so I'm like doing the math. I'm like, well, I just spent 9 months, a ton of capital. And so right now my app is on track to cost me about $15 million to use this summer. And it was one of the biggest, pivots I've ever had to make, and was like, really grounding for me. One of the, worst things that's ever happened to me. Like, that's what it felt like in the moment. And quickly, I'm lucky to have a software mentor that was really helping me through the process. And he was like, why don't you just, add a switch to Google Maps and use their mapping system? And so that's what we do now. And
Mm.
just that quick fix, and something that I personally wouldn't have known without
Yeah, yeah.
good people in my ear, completely transformed the whole thing. And so to get to where we're at, we built it for ourselves, and I started getting interest from other can to curb companies, ironically in California, that saw my LinkedIn posts. And so I set up a meeting, I showed them my own software, and they were like, this is fantastic. I don't need to change a single thing. Like, I want this. And I'm like, well, it's not available right now, but took it to our developers. And, over the last 3 or 4 months, we basically built my own system in the tech world. It's called multi-tenant, created a multi-tenant SaaS product. And that is called Shoreline Waste Technologies. And so with Shoreline Waste Tech, we plan in April to give this to, we actually have a line of operators that are ready to go. They love it. We have a website. It's called shorelinewaste.com that you can go and watch a 20-minute completely free demo and fill out an interest form. And it really, I would love for people to check it out, even without me saying it, but just for people to know, it's a whole back end system that you can control onboard properties like that. They automate into the routes so you don't have to touch or create a single route. In the demo, I show what our old routing system looked like, Google Sheets. And I was manually adding properties based on what I thought the best would be on the route. Now we onboard them, they go automatically on the app, and we built a mobile app. So our employees have a full navigational built-in app. If you check out our Instagram, we have, if you don't want to watch a 20-minute demo, we have a 50-second teaser on it, and it shows you everything. And it's been one of the most exciting things that I've ever got to work on because I got into tech the last 2 or 3 years, and seeing what automation can do for your own company is special. And enabling others and enabling, this industry, kind of shedding light to it.
Yep.
And, there's one thing to consult and to help people, that way. But by giving them the software, I'm solving and cementing so many potholes that you would have had to go through. And I think ultimately, if this can enable hundreds of people to start the can to curb business, that's now kind of like what my life goal is to take this industry to the top.
Dude, that's insane. And how old are you right now?
I just turned 22.
You're 22 and you dropped out of college to pursue this goal, this
Yeah,
business.
so I mean, like I had known since like my freshman year, going into my freshman year summer was when I made 20 grand, and I made 20 grand in 3 months, and I'm like, well, what the hell? I got back
Yeah.
to school and I was like, what am I doing here? And so I stuck it out for 2 more years, believe it or not. When I was building my software, I was still in school, and those were some late nights for sure. It
Sure.
was a grind, and I kind of realized, I just skated by my junior year. Like finals was just
Right.
when I was getting ready to start my season, and it was crazy. And I kind of had to look at it and say, my parents are on board with me doing this for the rest of
There you
my
go.
life. I'm
There you
on
go.
board with me doing this. I started getting opportunities to expand, and I'm like, why am I chasing a piece of paper that I've already determined that that's not my path? Not everyone should be an entrepreneur. Not everyone's built for it. Not everyone wants to. That's completely fine. I've determined that I can't be an employee. I'm an employer, and I love building businesses. And regardless if this took off and, if I would have made more money, working a job, it doesn't matter because I wake up every day and I love it. So I think that's for everyone. My biggest advice, what I think I
There
can
you
leave
go.
everything with, and what I would advise anyone that's young and actually wants to do it is, motivation is temporary. Discipline is what actually gets you to go and do something. And start when you're young because, when your college years, 18 through 22, that's the most time you will ever have for the rest of your life. The most time, right? And I guarantee you, I was the vice president of my fraternity. There is plenty of time to have fun while also chasing your goals, chasing your dreams, doing whatever, and finding out what you need, like what you want to do. Like there's so many. I wish there was a class in college called Life. Me and my dad talk about this because there's so many people that if you ask them to sit down and write 3 goals, they can't do it. They don't actually know what they're doing. They're just going through the motion. And
Yeah.
so I think if people really sat down, realized, what do I want to do? And it doesn't have to be the money part. What makes you, what interests you? Because that is ultimately whatever you spend the most time on doing, you're going to get good at it. So just spend the most time on what it is you want to do. Be fearless. Don't worry about the traditional route. And I promise there's never been a case where someone worked really, 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 really hard and it didn't work. So reevaluate yourself if you think you're working hard.
Dude, Zach, you have been such an inspiration, just even in the short time that we've known each other, man. That's really awesome. 22 years old, $200,000, I guess, a year, right? Season business,
Five
and this
months.
is this is this is just the beginning. And I want to close out by just saying, man, like, what advice would you give to people who um, just like are who are older in life, 40s, 50s, 60s, trying to do this and say, man, I'm not a young gun anymore, right? I got older kids
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Does the same type of advice that you just gave to the younger crowd apply to the older crowd, and why?
So yeah, and that kind of goes to why I'm saying start young because there's no doubt, that you are put at a disadvantage, and the longer you wait, the more responsibilities you get in life. And that's just, that's no
That's just
fake,
life.
but
That's just
I
life.
it's life. Yeah, exactly. You start a family, you get a girlfriend, you have kids, you have apartments, you have, all those things. So I think it's important to start young, but I think people like, and sometimes it gets clowned on the internet. I think people like Gary Vee make an amazing point where it's like people think they're so old, people think it's over for them if they can't figure it out too early. And so I hope people don't think me of a hypocrite because I just said start early. You should start early. It will be
If you
easier.
can
And
start early.
yeah, exactly. But I think, it takes time for people to learn themselves. I'm the most thankful person in the world that I found what I'm passionate for really, really
Right.
early. I think everyone has that thing, and whether it's fear holding them back or too much responsibility, I think my advice to someone that's older is that, you can still do it. Realize that you're at a disadvantage and say, fuck it, Because at the end of the day, like so many people, I'm so blessed that I even have my two parents who supported
Mhm.
me, best parenting I think I've ever could imagine. They're accountants. Like, I couldn't have been put in a better business
Right.
situation. So maybe I'm not the person to go motivate you, but go look at the person that there's examples all over of people that, oh my, like getting out of a terrible, terrible situation that anyone, like 99.9% people would be like, they're drop dead. They had no chance. Go look at someone like that and say, okay, how can I slowly change my habits? Look at what you're doing every day and say, what can I change that's going to make me, might be cliche, but 1% better? And, don't dictate on your past mistakes or things that have gone wrong. Momentum is the strongest force in the world. Keep stacking a couple days together and you'll see what you can make of it.
Damn, love it, man. The last question for you before I let you go here
Yeah.
is shoreline waste solutions is one thing, shoreline waste tech is another thing. Are you comfortable sharing how much you invested into this app? Because I feel like this app and this platform that you're building is gonna take off to the moon.
Yeah, I think more than anything, what makes this app more valuable than even the figures I put into it is the time and the initial knowledge,
Yeah.
right? Like I built this based on
Your own business.
3 years or 2 years without having it, right? So I knew everything it needed. And that's what I meant by cementing potholes because I know exactly what this needed because I built it as my dream software. The best thing I have about this, like I get teary-eyed looking at my software compared to my sheets. And my
Yeah.
mom was a huge help in doing it on the sheets. And I just kind of came back. I wasn't giving her much updates while I was at school. I just kind of came back and I'm like, yeah, look at this. And we were blown away because what this did and how it just became like I put the dream of what exactly how perfect would it be if we had this and then we built it. And so figures, definitely, you know, uh,
You don't have to
between
share if you don't like
yeah,
to.
a lot, honestly, a lot. Like a lot of the money I've made was reinvested into this,
Yeah.
both because it was the only way I could have scaled,
Yep.
and also because you know, I do see the future of giving it to other people. But with all that said, the number one, the value in this software and why I would never be scared for even someone to replicate it is because it's built by the operators. It's built by the biggest operator in Jersey Shore, right? I know exactly how it was supposed to be made, and we've kind of built the holy grail.
Dang. Zach Marion, thank you so much for your time, your knowledge, and just I'm looking forward to doing this again in like 5, 6 months because I
Dude,
know that's going to be a whole different beast than what we're talking about now.
absolutely. I can't wait. I really appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, Zach. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good, Boris.
Bye, Zach.
Take care.